करना 1 सेकंड में। अच्छा, welcome everyone, and a great invitation for using the mind for the angel rather than the ego. And today we're going to be joined by Sister Genti towards the end of the session. And yesterday's topic around being Kamatit, and the word Atit was said to be the detachment of a guest in the etymology. It was really very interesting. So lots of rich material for these 3 days of using Kuparas. Today we'll conclude. So welcome everyone, and welcome Prashant.
Thank you. And hello. So let us continue on what was practiced just now. Let us build on this the central message is keep the mind free from what is inaccurate. All the waste thoughts or unnecessary thoughts, they are all inaccurate. Nice way to prevent wrong thoughts is keep the mind busy with right thoughts. And if it is you are choosing that, go for the best thoughts. A simple program. Whole thing becomes so easy if we start with Paras. Because Paras, you just come out of the whole department of confusion and ignorance. You understand the story for what it is. And Paras environment helps the soul become conscious. That's why we use the language invisible traveler. The moment invisible traveler is conscious, you are seeing that perspective. They are now auspicious thoughts. Because it is based on truth. And he knows of the sky and he is not subservient to ego. Thank you. So let us keep that awareness for the rest of the hour. The invisible traveler, that is a nice language for us. Today I will be using the board and let us see some of the images we have used in the past. One image we have used. If we were to take a photograph of the mind, we will see something like this. That is representing karmatit. There is nothing else, no attachments, no ego within the system. We also saw another sketch that says there are many ego created there, and soul consciousness is just represented by the dot. So it is there, but there is ego is dominating the inner life of the soul. And we saw that our effort is to nourish this soul awareness. Every minute you are nourishing it. Accurate. If you are accurately soul conscious, it is getting stronger, and then you are going in this direction. If the ego gets nourishment, then we move in other direction. Soul consciousness becomes weaker. That is what has happened in the past. When there is no attention, we are feeding the ego. The ego is constant. Like you just go for a walk, something within you wants a little bit more praise, and you want to have something else, you want to eat something. Ego, all these ego are like parasites, constantly want something. They are their own food. But thoughts that what you think are just ordinary thoughts, they are not so innocent. They are nourishment for this ego. They're thinking about some people, thinking about some objects. They are all nourishment that is going into the stomach of this ego. So they get bigger. just ordinarily. So Baba used the word vikalp for that in what we heard just now. So they are just ordinary thoughts, but they are thoughts of the drama. Uh, the higher thoughts, auspicious thoughts, are only when you are in truth. So when you are seeing from soul awareness, then you are nourishing the higher consciousness and stopping the ego. There is no neutral ground here. Either you are on the side of the Ram or you are on the side of Ravan. There is no United Nations peace zone. You are either one camp or the other. And so we might as well side with the Ram. Not enough to do some worship and statues, and question is where are the thoughts rest of the time. Even I can be in the temple, but mind can be going in the drama. No one thinks he's thinking anything bad. No one is thinking of robbing someone or beating someone, but just these thoughts of people, position, possessions, situations that happen. They are all feeding the ego in different ways. We also saw very important sketch for us is to remember our home. And if I'm using Paras is our higher intellect. If I'm using Paras, then this dimension is obvious for me. If I'm using Patthar, as if it doesn't exist for me. It is like a blind, spiritually blind, when one is Patthar. So Paras environment helps the soul becomes conscious. This is an important milestone for us. Otherwise, it is not even conscious. In a mind like this, soul is there, but it is not even conscious. It is dormant. All the ego are active. That is what is dominating. That's why we feel so strongly. This body and drama is me. Whereas when you use Paras, then game changes. It's sort of complete reversal. You realize this is you. Complete shift. It is not, it is an extension of Prashant. No, Prashant is there in the story. Soul wakes up and understands his independent existence with amazement, tiny point, and that is you, and that is immortal, and that has a home. It's a presence. Even God is the same tiny point. So you understand that you belong to this family. You are immortal. Those feelings will follow. Everyone is immortal. Everyone is safe. And automatically you are having auspicious, soul conscious. One who is soul conscious is naturally highly auspicious. Impossible for him to have any negative thoughts. Why? Okay, one word answer. What do you think is the reason one who is soul conscious, he feels there is no reason for anger, sorrow, sadness, desires. Whole department of Ravan doesn't exist. One word answer. What do you think is the reason?
Several answers: being awake, secure, purity, truth, fullness, non-attachment, attention, knowledge.
Yeah, good, very good. The word I'm emphasizing is immortality. So when you are awake. And when you realize this world is timeless, our story of immortality is very central for us. Amar Katha. So your soul wakes up and realizes he is immortal, but his world is eternal and no end, nothing. You are beyond harm. You use it in words or you don't use it, but you realize that the whole physical world, the universe that you are seeing there, that universe appears like a story. And story cannot harm you. Awake soul knows that the whole thing, story with its black holes and everything within it, it cannot harm you. The entire universe. When I'm not soul conscious, when I'm in the ego consciousness, what happens? In the ego consciousness, ego feels forever. He is a potential victim. Some one word from someone, it appears like an attack for him. Constantly he's worrying whatever. That is why all this panic. Why do we need all these missiles and stockpile of guns and military? Because I feel I might be attacked. Every ego and when this has become our world, mind is in that panic, subconscious panic. I am a victim. And that when you are in that victim mode, the whole mindset that we see, the personality that we see in this world, all human beings are like this. Each one behaving like this. That's why the iron age, extreme depths of iron age. When we wake up, the soul wakes up, 100% reversal. Zero victim, never a victim. And we saw that day, never a beggar, never subservient to anything. So he experiences that freedom from mind that is free from vikalp, wrong thoughts, negative thoughts, but Ravan's thoughts. Thoughts that have got some sorrow or sin, thoughts of sin. Sin is not a big sin, but just Ravan's desire, desperation, this is all sin. So soul, one who is conscious, soul conscious, is free from that department. What remains is silent bliss and silent contentment. He understands everyone is good. He sees the truth of everyone. Everyone is lovely and loving. Everyone is everyone. He sees no criminals and he sees no bad guys. He knows the drama, he knows the story. But thing is, he knows the actor behind the dragon. So his focus is on the invisible actors. And they are lovely that he knows. Just to be awake to this, you are nourishing that higher consciousness. It is a process of fun. Like, instead of spending time with Ravan, you are spending time with the angel. And once you are in that side, that is the world with God, and you don't need statues anymore. This is the world with God. Why do you need to worship a statue once you have found the real? But currency for that is soul awareness. In soul consciousness, your alaukic world opens up for you. Invisible and divine, that dimension opens up. And so he feels company. He knows he is lucky, worthy to be loved by God. He has company of God He worthy to have company. Soul feels, and he knows he belongs to that family. It has always been the case, just that he had forgotten. Everything opens up. As you create time in that direction, things open up. You know that everyone is lucky. Everyone is invisible prince. Silently you are seeing that reality. Your home, your world, and in that there is benefit for you, benefit for others. So let us create a few minutes of this practice now with a little attention. So we always start with a good posture, and the first thing we check is if we are using paras. Where are we? Are we paras or are we in a patthar? If we use patthar, story will become big. Your mind is revolving around story. But it as if it matters. Small things matters. Then it is patthar. But no, that we can change it in a second. And we now see the perspective of the invisible traveler. An invisible traveler is seeing the whole physical world is a small theater. I mean, there is a story and drama based on a theater. He can see clearly every episode has an end and so many characters and so much going on there. He knows the world beyond the theater. And beyond the theater is the world of silence. This is the home of the invisible travelers. And this invisible traveler, we see they are like in the presence or tiny stars. Family, they are all immortal. This environment of paras helps the true self to become conscious. And true self, when he's conscious, he sees himself as a presence. For him, it appears normal to be that presence, normal to be immortal, normal to belong to that sky, supreme sky, normal not to need anything. It is immortal without needing anything. Normal to be loved by God, to belong to God. Just it is from that family. Someone from a royal family feels it is normal to belong to the king. That is what he knows. So also the one who is conscious, the soul that is conscious, for him it is normal. Subtlety is normal. That all belong to this family, that is normal. Sees it in an unlimited way, but in a natural way. It doesn't appear like a effort for him. Different. A game is different for him. Subtlety. Invisible presence, invisible soul. When he visits this physical world, he knows beforehand it is a separate theater, just like watching a film. Separate. He is just watching it, involved in it. So invisible traveler is almost like an invisible observer. 100% free. He knows his complete freedom. He doesn't need the theater. Doesn't need anything from them. He knows it is temporary and it has got a script and it has to end. Knows it beforehand. Knows his complete freedom from it. Nothing there really matters. This he knows. Nothing in the story matters. That's why he is the observer, but he is a detached observer. Witness. Even when he is involved, he is a witness. Who is witness? The invisible traveler. And this drama, even with this gathering, Zoom, it is all part of the theater. The invisible soul is the invisible observer. He is the invisible prince who belongs to the King of Kings. He knows he is lucky, immensely lucky. As we continue on our journey, we remember the beautiful truth. Thank you. I'm going to read a short passage of something we read this morning. And but before that, anyone or any comments or questions we have to discuss? It look nice.
Yes. You mentioned vikalp. What are vikalp thoughts? Are they all bad?
Do you mind to repeat, please?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Cheyenne's asking, what are vikalp thoughts? Are they all bad?
Vikalp. Vikalp is bad thoughts, yes. And for us, vikalp is they don't sort of ordinary standard. There are some bad thoughts and some good thoughts. But for a yogi, thoughts that feed ego, they are bad thoughts. So you are just cyclical thoughts, thinking of the drama, thinking of situations. They all feed the ego, so they become vikalp. Wasteful thoughts, negative thoughts, but body conscious thoughts.
So one question, how can we change the ordinary thoughts which are related to food, people, job, household duty? So
Yes, and one is that you need to do something, you are thinking of it, take a decision, finish. But then you are going home and you are still thinking of your job. It is not necessary, but you are still thinking of it because ego wants it. It may be ego says, oh, it was so nice, that person said so nice things. You keep thinking about it. And all along you are feeding the ego. And it becomes wasteful thought.
a question from Nazanin. When you say beyond harm, do you mean beyond death? Because the soul does get impure and suffers the return of past karma.
Beyond harm, and one who suffers is the ego that suffers. So suffering is all because of the ego. But as we were saying, remember this image we used yesterday, the prince who thinks he's a beggar. He remains a prince, but he's thinking he's a beggar. That function has happened. Do you call it a harm? Agreed. That is the harm. But if he just wakes up, he realizes he's a prince, and many things happen. No one gives coins. No one people take away coins. But prince is beyond harm. When he starts thinking he's the beggar, there's so much. He's vulnerable to so many things.
Nice. I hope that helps. Yes. And also one further question.
I just want to emphasize in this. In the actor, one who is acting in a drama, and in the drama there are dragons and there are bad guys. The actor knows he's beyond harm, and that is what we are reminding ourselves. And when ego comes in, he feels someone it is not a big harm. Death is not the only harm. Someone may criticize his head. That itself is interpreted as harm. When the soul is conscious, he doesn't receive the slightest harm.
One question from Roy. When we achieve soul consciousness, why does it seem so fleeting?
It starts. Any good habit, bad habit need to start somewhere. But if you are observing it like this, it's a very good sign. You really understood soul consciousness. It will be fleeting. It will be. And why it is fleeting? If you are accurately soul conscious for 10 seconds, ego will suffocate during those 10 seconds. And if someone suffocates, he tries his best to come back. Then he will sort of push everything down and try to come back. So this is the inner game going on. But we have to start. And as you move further, ego becomes smaller. And we want to remove ego. So the reason it is fleeting is because of the mischief of ego.
Maybe one more question. Some situations, they create a feeling of being affected, like for example, your house is burgled, Daksha's mentioning, and how to put a full stop, because there's a feeling that situation has as if scarred, left an impression.
Yes, this understanding of the story, the word story, that is so effective. And even for a few minutes, understand that is a script, that is a story, that is the part. Dragon has to come and dragon has to go, and then because there are bad guys, there are heroes. If there was no bad guy, there will be no hero. Would you like to watch Cinderella drama where there is no ugly sister? Then there is no drama. So this drama has got different kinds of plots. In Iron Age, you will see Iron Age plots. So you are not surprised by it, but bring the awareness of Paras maybe for 10 seconds, but bring this new understanding, new light, where you completely see things as a joke. Robber comes, robber goes, camel comes, camel goes. See it as just for 10 seconds, see it that way. And know that everyone is safe and everyone is lovely. One who plays the part of the robber is also soul, and he is lovely. See him like that for 10 seconds. We have to introduce new habits.
Thank you.
Shall I proceed? Or
Yes, please do.
yeah. So here I'm reading the passage from today's Murli, and I wanted to send a poll at some point. You can do it at the end. How many heard today's Murli? I wanted to know already. You will get a question at some point, and I want to know this. But we are reading just this one paragraph. Whilst having a heart-to-heart conversation with the Father, some children ask, what will I become in the future? Will I become a king? Will I become a subject? Baba says, check yourselves for even one day. First of all, from early morning, check your three main companions. This is mind, intellect, and the sanskars. These three are your main workers. In the world nowadays, a king has a minister, and the king does the task through the ministers. So consider these three workers to be your companions or ministers, and check. Do these three work under your control? Are you self-sovereign? Are you the master of this? Mind, intellect, sanskars, all habits. Are you the master, self-sovereign? Or do you work under their control? Does your mind control you, or do you control your mind? Are you able to have whatever type of thought you want, whenever you want? Are you able to focus your intellect wherever you want? Or does your intellect make you, one who is a king, wander elsewhere? Do you control your sanskars or habits? Or are you slave to your sanskars? To have a kingdom means to be the master. So, do you, the sovereign, have the power to give an order, to carry out a task accurately in a right way at the time that you ask? Or is it that you ask your mind to do one thing and the mind does something else? The special means for being a constant yogi, a self-sovereign, is use your mind and intellect. So our whole game is mind Mind is the one that creates thoughts, intellect, discrimination, and decision making. So these are these are important for us. Use your mind and intellect. So these main pillars of support, if these main pillars of support are not under your control, or if they are sometimes under your control, if they are under your control one moment and not the next, if even one of the three is under your control to a lesser extent, then you can check from that whether you will become a king or a subject. The sanskars of being a sovereign over a long period of time, here, sovereign of the mind, over a long period of time will enable you to be the master, to be the sovereign of a kingdom in the future over a long period of time. If you have control sometimes, but subservient at other times, then you won't be the master and have full right to the fortune of a kingdom. For half the time, you can become a silver-edged king, but you won't have a right to the kingdom all time. So this is a nice message. Self-sovereign. You know what this is telling us? Baba shows a nice connection. If you see many countries, whoever is the president, king, ministers, they first played another part. Like, for example, someone may become a mayor earlier, and then he does a good job, then he becomes the president. Someone was a governor, then he does a good job, he becomes a prime minister. It is a bit like there is always first each one is given a chance, small laboratory. And if they do a job there, then they get a chance for a bigger role. So here Baba says, we all have got an opportunity. You, me, we are given this laboratory. And the laboratory is, there is a mind, there is intellect, there are sanskars. What else is there? There is Maya, there's Ravan, there are different situations, there are people, there are dragons, the whole setup is there. You also got access to powers and knowledge, and the supreme coach is very much there. He wants you to win this, become the sovereign. He's there. But he doesn't play the game for anyone. He cannot. Each one is in the game. Each one is given this laboratory. And let us see how much of a master you are. This is it a fair arrangement? And if you are doing a good job, that is a score you deserve to be the master of heaven for a long period of time. Now, if you get less score, then half the time. But there has to be the score. If someone doesn't even know the game, then how can he score? He doesn't even know that he's a slave to, that there is some option to be the master of the mind. He doesn't even know. Then there is no score. So it will be different results altogether. Useful for us to know this connection, and we start the process. Do you like this idea? The game, inner game that is going on. And Ravan is determined. In a game, the other side, opposition side, they do their job well. So also here, Ravan is determined to defeat, to give a less score. But you need to be equally determined. Ram wants to guide. If anyone wants to win this game, anywhere on the planet, Ram will reach him. It is Ram, part of Ram is this. Anyone wants to win this kind of game, there will be help. Ram is committed to reach Sita at this level. He will not go if someone is asking for gold or someone asking to change the drama. But his part is to help Sita win and get score. So here we already got huge help. Now we have to play the game. And the rules are very clear. You want to add anything? You want to say anything? Do you like this game of being self-sovereign?
Yes, I think so. Just a question that came up a short while ago from Deep: how to control sanskaras?
Yes. Now sanskars want to ultimately come in the mind. Sanskars don't themselves rule, and mind is in your control. You have the option to keep the mind busy with thoughts um, and sovereign that you choose. Who should be using the mind? You keep it busy. Only idle mind is the devil's workshop. If you keep the mind busy, then there is no chance for devil to come with his sanskars.
Simple reminders. A question from Joan: how to strengthen concentration in meditation?
Very good. Again, this language of the story that helps at a practical level, because most of the time distractions are because of that box that you see on your screen. That is where the distractions are, and you have made it big. Some petty thing there, but you are making it big. Ego within you, it blows up everything. All why Cinderella said this last year. It is a big thing for ego. And then it becomes like an effort to control the mind and these thoughts, concentration. First, why we are emphasizing paras? With paras, first thing that happens is you understand this is a great story. It's a story, but it's a great story. Bizarre story, but that's the way it is. And I don't need to think anything of that story at the moment. If I want, I will come back to it after 10 minutes. Right now, I don't need to go in the story. Stop that direction in the first minute. And not after you go in the story, but first second. I don't need to go there. I will solve things after 10 minutes. If I'm asleep for 10 minutes, nothing will come to a halt. So I don't need to think of the story for 10 minutes. Give yourself that permission. And that is like a big success. But concentration is such a thing. More you use it, it improves. This is our whole process. We got determination, we got concentration, we got soul consciousness, we got paras, but everything as a dot. Otherwise, at the end of Iron Age, everyone is bankrupt. They don't have soul consciousness, they don't have paras, they don't have concentration, they're bankrupt. At one time they were princes, and right now they are not princes at the end of Iron Age. But there is a seed in everyone, there is a seed of everything, of all great qualities, there is a seed. And that is enough. You say, great, yeah, I now know there is a seed. Let me create time for it. You create 1 minute, create another minute. And if you got experience with garden, during this lockdown, people have been working in garden a lot more. So if you are working, if you just need to attend to the seed, and it becomes a garden, rich garden. From tiny seed, you get so much fruit and so many flowers. Same here. We are working on the seed and paying attention with patience. You are congratulating. Every time you are watering it, you are congratulating your success. It is going in the right direction. Yes, nice.
You may have sort of answered this just now, but some ideas on meditation, like what exactly to contemplate when creating time in introversion.
Yes. Now we had created certain experiments in the past, and there are some websites I might encourage you, and we will add these uh, website options, and there is a like cluster of practices that there are not like a 1, 2, 3 step, but different practices, like to what we did in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That is also feeding the soul consciousness. That is meditation for us. Using paras, it is meditation. Remembering home, experiencing home, that is meditation. Invisible traveler, he is seeing this story, that is meditation. You are understanding behind this drama and the different parts and Cinderellas, there are invisible souls and their brothers. Even if you do 10 seconds, that is a meditation. Remembering God, and that is another big area. Understanding the eternal bond between the Father and the soul, that is meditation. So they all complement each other, and we have to grow in all of this. That we have to wake up to the whole truth. But you will see some of this meditation guidance, a little more details. Maybe it may be good to go through it once.
Yes, and Roy's asking about mind and intellect, and there was a presentation going into the details of that, which we can send, unless you want to add anything at the moment.
Yes, definitely see the details of that presentation. But in essence, mind is a platform within us, within the soul, that just creates thoughts. That is a very neutral platform, and thoughts arise here. And intellect is like a director If mind is a stage on which the thoughts come, intellect is the director, and it has power to choose which thought is coming and whether it should be there, whether it should not be there. Intellect has that power to discriminate and decide. Now the problem arises, the intellect, the director can become confused. That is when we call it stone intellect or patthar. And when the intellect is confused, he doesn't know what he should be doing with the mind. And then it becomes chaos. So this is where we are emphasizing start with paras. We use the best director. Paras has got a clear understanding of the map and he knows exactly who should be there. And once the intellect is seeing clearly and has clear map, he says, okay, these thoughts shouldn't be there and maybe some other thoughts should come. And he can promote that. He can stop certain thoughts and promote other thoughts. And whichever thoughts are coming, now that is most important because that is what we are experiencing, that is what creates habits and sanskaras in essence, but definitely go into details.
Thank you. There was a question from Tova or comment around sanskaras. If we work with light, focus on light, then the darkness is not an issue. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, excellent. This is our real situation in the soul at a deep level. And when we say impure, soul is impure, sanskaras, the rust in the soul, alloy in the soul. And this is that alloy. All of this is alloy in the soul. And that has to be removed. And alloy is there because of darkness. In ignorance, we create attachments in a story. Like if someone is acting in a Cinderella drama, which actor will create attachments to the shoes in the drama and attachment to ugly sister? He must be confused. Same here also. There is a real confusion. And that's why all this ego and all take, and we don't even know even that there is such an extreme delusion going on. So the change can only happen in full clarity. Superficially, some psychotherapy and all, you won't get change. It is you just replace one problem by another problem. But real transformation will happen with you see that paras clarity you need. Clearly understand what is going on here. And then every minute you are seeing that perspective that is feeding the soul. So it is not just light as an information. If I just read books, that is not necessarily going to bring about big change. But if I create time, we can call it yoga, where you use your concentration, you want to go in the experience of the invisible traveler. You are experiencing home. You are staying, you give it a priority. It's just work is not a priority. Mind, what is happening in the mind is a priority. Only the soul that is conscious, he is the sovereign. If the soul is not even conscious, ego is not the sovereign of someone. Ego is a slave. So you are creating these minutes of growth here. And as this grows, the alloy continues to be removed. This is the purification of the soul happening. And this goes with you from one day to the next. It is guaranteed. It is the deep change within the soul. It is your guaranteed gain. You may collect lots of gold, but you die. You can't take anything with you. But this transformation that is brought about, that is net gain, guaranteed gain that goes with you from one day to the next, one life to the next.
Would you call this listening to your inner voice?
And inner voice, we don't use that language, but knowledge. Just like here, we are listening, understanding. Maybe we are sort of we're asking questions. We want to understand things. That is the process to really be clear, and that is more useful process to understand. When Sarah gets time, you can ask the poll question also, and anytime you can arrange the rooms. You are plan to arrange the rooms. Happy to take question and create another 2 minutes of practice or 4 minutes of practice.
I can go for the poll now in that case, and hopefully you should see on your screen. If you're co-host, it won't work. So question, did you hear today's Avyak Murli?
Yes, so it is lots of you. That's nice.
So not everyone had a chance to vote, but you get an idea. Thank you. Could create time now for meditation. Was that the plan?
Yes. So this will be nice, something for us to come back to during today is the last session, and after this, Sister Jayanti will be meeting us in the last half an hour, and so for now on, some easy method to practice, and that is like a guarantee to nourish this higher consciousness. So I will speak 4 steps, 4 minutes, and you can aim to practice when you choose. Create 4 minutes and practice. So step 0 is checking the posture, and broadly we are reminding ourselves of our priorities. And the most important thing is to bring about this inner change. But that is step 0. Step 1, we are just seeing the invisible traveler. Instead of mind wandering in other directions and going anywhere, random thoughts, we are seeing this invisible traveler who is the guest here, who is like a tourist. Just as a tourist may visit your town, you say, oh, this is a tourist. We are going around with a camera. In the same way, this invisible traveler is like a tourist in this world. He is not from here, he is from a different world. and he definitely has a return journey. Invisible traveler. Step 2, traveler becomes the observer. He is very aware of his exit, guaranteed exit. He is aware of it. He has no intention to create attachments here. He doesn't want to cling to anything, claim anything. He has an exit. He's going. He doesn't want to get stuck in this quarantine. Invisible observer. Invisible observer. He finds every moment as a gift. And every experience is a gift. He doesn't want to cling to anything. Everything is moving and new moments, new experiences. Just like any tourist, there is enjoyment and there is appreciation and gratitude. Step 3, the traveler understands this world is a different reality. That is, there cannot be exchange. You cannot take anything from here to your world. As if you are watching a story and there cannot be exchange. You can only watch it. So he understands he is a tourist, but in a story reality. He is not from here. And since it is a story, there is nothing to complain about, nothing to worry about. All that was required is to know this is a story or not. Once he understands this is a story, he finds it strange anyone would get into obsession or attachments. The invisible traveler knows of his world beyond. Step 4, the traveler comes to his world beyond the story. And beyond the story is silence, world of complete stillness. There is no noise of the story. This is the world that is timeless. This is the real world. This is not a fictional world. The real world. This is the home of the traveler. The invisible traveler knows of this silence of the home, eternity of the home, truth of the home. As he continues on his travels, he understands the beautiful truth of the invisible traveler. Thank you.
you. And any focus you'd like to suggest for the room discussion?
Discussion around the self-sovereign, how we can be the sovereign of them. It is our mind, it is little laboratory. What can we do to be the sovereign? What are the obstacles and what are the answers?
Nice. Very clear. So we have around 10 minutes. We'll meet back, and shortly after we'll be joined by Sister Genti. Enjoy. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, from the discussion. And let's create a couple of moments of silence. Thank you, and warm welcome back to everyone from your discussion on this important subject. And, very warm welcome to Sister Genti, who's joining with the group today. And we were talking about being self-sovereign and how to do it and what are the obstacles. It would be really nice if you would like to share for maybe 10-15 minutes, and we may have time for a question or two. Welcome, Om Shanti.
Sure. Om Shanti, and a warm greeting of peace to all my sisters and my brothers. It's a powerful Murli, a beautiful Murli, as usual. The whole subject of being the master of the self is something absolutely relevant at this moment now, when times are so uncertain and our mind can go wild, going here and there and everywhere, looking at the future and seeing nothing but darkness ahead, until and unless we have the path of spirituality. And then spirituality shows us the direction in which to go in which really we know that all is going to be well. But this is the time when we can fill our mind with the power of concentration. We can make sure that our thoughts are connected with God so that the events down here don't impact us negatively. And then with our intellect connected with God, make the right decisions and move forward so that the highest within the self is able to emerge. At the moment, we have a mixture of things that are good and not so good, but God's power of truth and love is able to allow the highest to be emerged and expressed in our life. And so it's really very much needed at this particular moment as a reminder of what we need to be doing. And what I'd like to take up for the next little while is to just look at what's happening with religion and spirituality. There's a very simple image that I'd like to share that I came across many, many years ago, because serving in the interfaith arena, you come across many ideas, and you come across also the teachings of the different traditions, and you can see how we are aligned or different and unique. Both are fine. But this image is one of a bicycle wheel. And if you stand at that part of the circumference and I stand here, then we look across the chasm and we see each other as very, very different. We see different clothes, we see different culture, different language, different food, different scriptures, different rituals. The list of differences is huge. And so what's dividing us is a big, big gap. And yet, if you go on an inner journey within your tradition, and I do the same in mine, we meet together at the center point. And at the center point, we share the awareness of the mystical experience. Sometimes we refer to that mystical experience as a union with God, sometimes with the divine, sometimes with the self, whatever term we may use. And secondly, we see that we share the same universal values. At one point, there'd been a question in my mind: are there such things as universal values? And then, of course, through spiritual teachings, I understood that the values that I hold dear in my heart, honesty, peace, love, responsibility, integrity, you name them, and we discovered that there were 12 different values that were absolutely recognized by all cultures, all traditions, and all countries. We did some research that made us come up with this statement, and we discovered the 12 values that are the highest within the world. And so that was as a result of our project in the 80s called Global Cooperation for a Better World, when everybody said what they want is to see a better world that's filled with values. And then that reached 128 countries, and that project took a few years. And maybe it was the largest research project ever undertaken by an NGO, a non-governmental organization. And then, as a result of that, we created a book which was presented to the UN for its 50th anniversary, and it was called Living Values. And they first said, well, whose values? We said universal values. And we took the statements of the different values, the definitions of the values from the Murlis that come from Avyakt Bapdada. By then, everything was computerized, so it was easier than one would imagine. But it still took about a year to put it all together. And so 12 value statements were presented to the UN, and they said, yes, these seem to be universal definitions of these values. And they gave us the UN logo because it was in honor of their 50th anniversary. And that led to another whole project called Living Values. But in between, we also had a mini project taking place in Global House, and we would have a BK and a person from the world out there, from one of the religious traditions, and we would have a conversation together. I remember having a conversation about the theme of justice with the person who was at that time the principal of one of the Islamic colleges in Regent's Park. And it was very beautiful to meet him, share with him, and have dinner together in Global House, and discovered that that concept in Islam of justice and the spiritual concept was not so very different after all. So my point is that the traditions all share universal values, which are spiritual values actually. And so going on that inner journey from my side of the cycle and you coming in your direction from your perspective, from your tradition, but going on that inner journey together. And this is the center point where we meet. And so what is it that separates us? Many things. The scriptures, sometimes the philosophy, sometimes the traditions, sometimes the rituals, sometimes even the food that we eat. There's a big chasm between us. But spirituality focuses on the two things that actually unite us. And so one is the mystical experience of the divine. And if you notice, whether it's Islamic Sufis or whether it's Christian monks and nuns, whoever has been on that inner journey will start to speak about their experiences of the divine in a very similar language. They would speak about the love of the beloved or the warmth of the love of the parent. They would speak about how the power of that unconditional love is able to transcend any other human experience. And because it's able to take us into transcendence, it's able to give us a glimpse of eternity and something way beyond this physical dimension. And so spirituality doesn't look so much at scriptures, and certainly it doesn't get into the detail of the philosophy, but what Baba does is explain to us the essence of all knowledge, the knowledge of the self and the knowledge of God. And on the basis of this, Baba's wanting us to make that personal connection and relationship with the divine so that then that is able to transform us and take us back to our original divine state of being. All of us carry goodness within the soul, but by the time we'd reached the end of the cycle, we'd forgotten who we really are. We'd got so much attached to the ego of the physical form that the spiritual dimension was totally lost. And because of that, then of course, we lost contact with our own values. And if we look around the world today, although people will use the same language, the same words, but the reality is that that particular quality is practically absent. For example, people will talk about peace, but where is peace? And the fact that peace lies within, and that peace is our natural state of being. Well, there's no concept of this at all. And Baba has given us the experience. That's the other thing, that most religions will direct you to scripture. But if you say to them, well, how can I actually meditate? They'll refer you to books. Oh, read so-and-so, Saint so-and-so, read something, something, something. They won't be able to give you the methodology of step 1, step 2, step 3, like Baba has taught us. It is a school. And so although on one level it is the essence of the teachings of all traditions, on another level you could really say it is a school. God, the teacher, teaching us and guiding us by the hand to lead us to our destination. And so understanding that if I follow the formula that God has given me, I can actually come to an experience. Baba says, okay, experiment with this, but these are the steps. Make sure that you're following those steps. If you miss out a step and then say, hey, why didn't I have an experience? Well, that's not the way to do it. You forgot one of the main steps. And so, of course, you didn't get what you wanted. But follow the formula, 1 and 2 and 3, and you'll get that experience that you've been looking for through half the cycle, thousands of years. And so the essence of spirituality, the teachings of God, and that experience that connection with God leads us to is something which is then validated by what it is I experience in my own life. Baba will never say, just believe me. Baba will say, experiment with it. Try it for yourself and see where it takes you. Religion has too often said, it's a mystery, don't ask questions. Or they'll say, because it's been there since the beginning of time, nobody can challenge it. And so don't ask questions. Basically, that's the stance of most traditions. But Baba will say, ask as many questions as you want, and definitely there will be an answer. But most of all, even better than asking questions is use the formula. Experiment A, B, C, and D, and then see what happens. and your own experience will be able to validate it for you. And depending on that, then you decide to move forward. And then the second aspect, although all religions have said, let there be peace, let there be love, let there be harmony, since the advent of that particular religion, the story has been that there is less peace, there is less love, and there is definitely a huge amount of loss in terms of values. Just look at history and 2000 years of Christianity, and there have been more wars than they were in the prior period. There's been more violence, and today there's a huge amount even in our homes. And so you can see that although the religions have preached about these qualities, and as I say, universally there's agreement about what these values and qualities are, nobody has actually told us how to be able to attain these in our lives. And so spirituality is saying something quite different. You don't have to struggle to attain these values. They're actually there as part of you. But because you forgot yourself, you disconnected with those values. And so you see the condition where instead of truth, there is falsehood, to the extent that if today somebody sends you a video, we're astute enough to ask the question, is this real? And somebody can check it out and find out if it is. I know that at Diwali, somebody sent me a 2-minute clip of somebody coming outside the door and lighting some diyas, the little earthenware lamps. And my cynicism at this point is such that I asked the question to the person who had sent it, because the caption said, this is the Chancellor doing this outside 11 Downing Street. And I asked the question, is this for real? And they said, yes, it was. And then later I saw it on BBC television too. And so, yes, it was real. And it was the Chancellor early in the morning coming out to light the deepaks and putting them on the doorstep of the house in which he happens to be living. So my point that it's so much falsehood that you can't trust anything anymore. You know, they used to say that seeing is believing, but no, you know that even what you see may not necessarily be real, be true. And so we've moved very far away from values because we've moved away from our own spirituality and coming back to the awareness of who I am, the inner being, the soul, and practicing the concept of soul consciousness and connecting with God. What I find is that then God's light is able to reach me and cleanse the soul, and the seed that is already there, latent within the soul, can germinate and start to flourish. And yes, lo and behold, I realized that truth was inside of me. I'd forgotten it. And so I was being deluded by all the misinformation and the false news, the fake news that's going around currently. You know, there's this whole thing about conspiracy theory. Is it true? Is it not true? Who knows? Now, if you want to get your head into it, I would suggest don't bother. Rather than that, investigating whether the conspiracy theory is real or not, get on with spiritual study, have some yoga, because that is real. It is true. And you can validate it for yourself. And you will feel how, as you connect with God, those original values, which are the foundation of human civilization, are actually there within you, and you can start expressing them in your life. And this is how the Golden Age is created. The Golden Age doesn't happen just like that with God waving a magic wand. He does, he actually does, in terms of transformation from the Iron Age to the Golden Age, but there's a lot we have to do too. And our job is to prepare ourselves for the Golden Age by emerging those qualities that belong to the Golden Age. And the other side is, with yoga, let me settle the things of the past. religion will tell you to have prayer or even reflection time, but religion won't actually teach you how to meditate, how to make contact with God. And so there's a vacuum in which souls aren't being offered a real experience. You're referring to the text, the scriptures, and to rituals. But what does all this have to do with my life here and now? How can I have that experience that people that I'm reading about had those? Is it not possible for me to have those experiences or even exceed their experiences? Well, spirituality says this is the moment when you can actually have a living relationship with God and experience everything that you've ever thought about or longed for in terms of your spiritual journey. And so spirituality is practical. It is for here and now. It's not just stories about in the past. And so whether it's the Hindu scriptures of epics of 5,000 years ago, or even longer, they would say, or the testaments, which are dating back to certainly pre 2000 years ago, or however long that may be, some of them. But no, it's real. It's here and now, and it's impacting the way I think, the way I feel, and hopefully the way I speak and behave also. And so it's showing me what I need to do now at this moment, which is so critical. So it's teaching me to live in the present. I can learn lessons from the past stories and I can prepare for the future. But I mustn't live in the past as those stories tell me, and nor must I worry about what the future holds. But spirituality says, do what you need to do at the moment. Learn to keep your mind still and go into silence, connect with God, and your life will be transformed. But also, you can be an instrument to help others transform their lives. And so, I was asked to take up the subject of the connection of religion and spirituality. So, if I go into the depth of my own tradition, I'll find all these ideas of spirituality there. But usually we don't take the time to do that. And then on the other side, Baba says, no, you don't have to spend decades studying the scriptures and trying to come to the essence. I'm here to share with you the essence to save you all that time and energy. And so just study the teachings of God and you'll find that it really does answer all your questions, but also leads you to experiences that you had only imagined before. You couldn't ever have thought that this is something I can attain in my life. So let me stop here, and there's a few minutes left for questions. If you have any comments or questions.
Thank you, Sister Genti. A couple of questions. One is from Roy. He's recently finished Sanjeevani course. You mentioned that there are shared spiritual values of different religions, and this is more important than the differences of philosophy between them. Is it that there's more than one road to the top of the mountain, but some may be easier than others?
um, think about that analogy of the road to the top of the mountain. And if it's really a very high peak that you're planning to climb, then if you want to get to base camp 1, there can be many different roads. Base camp 2, and there's not so many choices, there's a few. Base camp 3, and maybe there's just one or two alternative routes. But the peak, there's usually only one. There aren't many roads leading to the peak. And so I think that this is the road that Baba's now showing us, the road to the peak of human perfection. And I think that finally is a road that God only can show us, not scriptures or other paths, but the road shown by God, the Satguru, is the one that will carry me to the peak.
Thank you, and very visual, actually, clear. And a question from Manuel in Spain. How is it that you attain this power from the Almighty Authority, as is written, or you mentioned from Supreme Friend, Supreme Being?
What was the last sentence?
So he's written here, how do you get the power of the Almighty Authority?
Okay. Connecting. If you're able to plug into a socket, then it's connected with the powerhouse and the current is flowing and it's able to reach you. And so when I come to the awareness of the soul, and I know that God is that supreme being, the being of light, and I focus my thoughts on God without letting other things distract me. So when I make that connection of soul and the supreme, God's love, God's power, God's light, God's might flows into the soul. So it's not even just power, but it's all of God's attributes that God is willing to share with me. And all of that reaches the soul. And depending on the extent to which I want to maintain that connection and how long I want to keep that connection, and whether it's a direct connection or whether it's a little bit loose and sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But all these are factors that I have to be aware of. And if I'm aware of them and I truly connect, then everything is available. Whatever God has is for his children. Today, Baba spoke about it very beautifully. God's treasure store is unlimited. So all the children have an equal right, but it depends on two things, their courage and their effort. I can have courage and say I'm going to climb the mountain, but if I haven't prepared myself, I'm not going to make it. Courage is fine, but it needs preparation, effort. Or if I have effort, but I'm a little bit cautious and I say, well, I'm not quite sure if I can make it, probably I won't make it. But courage and effort together, and I will definitely be able to take all that I need from the Almighty and reach that stage which is my own highest potential.
Thank you. I don't know if we have time for another question or if you can hear it, maybe. I know you have a busy schedule. It was interesting you mentioned about the religions. There is this shared essence. How is it that it later becomes separate? What is it in the that down the line we go as if in the wrong direction when it comes to the religious traditions?
If you think about the seed and the tree, the seed is one, but all the branches now come out in different directions. And then with the passage of time, the branches subdivide and subdivide until they're little twigs. So in the golden and silver age, there's that one trunk unified. And then the branches appear, the different prophets come and share their ideas. But you can trace back every single one of those branches and the essential tenet, the principal idea, back to the seed. And so today, when we understand God as the seed, and we see that, yes, within the tradition of the deity religion, the deities lose their power, and so they can't call themselves deities. They become Hindus according to their geographical place, the land around the Indus Valley. So Hindustan, India, Hindu, you can see all the names are connected. And if you look at the first branch from Abraham, and where Hindus have started idol worshipping. Now, the reminder from God of one being who doesn't have a physical form, the central tenet of Judaism, and also the laws that we should be abiding by. Then you look at the path of Buddha and the middle path, the path of balance and the path of righteous action. Again, that seed has come from the seed, that the seed of that idea has come from Shiv Baba, the seed. And then you look at Christianity, and again, where instead of just following the law in life, people are stuck on the letter rather than the spirit of the law. And Christ brings the message of love to temper the law. Again, where did he get it from? From Shiv Baba. Then you look at the path of sannyas, and again you see how there's so much luxurious living and standards have become very scattered. And so the path of renunciation, the path of purity. And then Muhammad. People have not just remembered the message of love, they got stuck into the messenger. And so again, there's a reminder, one God, none but one. And so all the different branches have power because they've taken one concept, one aspect from the seed. But of course, with the passage of time, then they lose their power, but also the deities by the end of the Iron Age have lost their power. So the whole tree has now got into a state of conflict and violence. The whole tree, not just one part of the world. So you can see that religio, to connect to the origin, the ligament, to join together with the origin, that idea that each tradition begins with is a very powerful one. But people don't actually follow the teachings of their religion. They take bits of it that are convenient, or they externalize it and forget about the real message. And so this is why there's a need for the old tree to finish, and Baba's now planting the sapling of the new tree.
Thank you so much. That's such a full and rounded answer and a beautiful image that brings this back to this unity that you started with. So many thanks on behalf of everyone in the group. There's lots of very enthusiastic and appreciative messages from everywhere. We're joined by all 5 continents, I think. And it's been very special, a special way to end the weekend retreat.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to Brother Prashant and you, Sarah, and all those who have joined us. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. So we have now a couple of moments just to make an announcement about the upcoming retreat, and just going to give you some more information on the screen shortly. And we will be meeting again, and you're all very warmly welcome. There'll be a retreat, Anubhutis, which is spiritual experiences. So we're learning Hindi words as we go, and it'll be the 11th to 13th of December. And we will be putting the link on the screen, also by email, some information, and the link and recording link. If you want to be on the mailing list, there'll be a link for that also for English, Spanish, and Hindi. And a big gratitude for this 3 days of strengthening Paras, and so much material to play with, work with for our own endeavor and the support of the group. So thanks to everyone and the translators especially, and all the team working behind the scenes on the hosting front. And also thanks, Brother Prashant. So we will be sharing now a very beautiful song. So if you have a few minutes, do stay on. It's very very rich in meaning.
Could there be more to this life we call mine than a journey through space or a storyline? More to life than the body can sense, than the mind can conclude from experience. This who we are, begin with breath, depend on form, or end with death. Strip away these roles, these names, and tell me what remains, and who you really are, who you really are. We measure success by the things we accrue, or the bonds that we form, or the deeds we do. But these too shall pass. As hard as we try to hold on to form will die. But inherent in this dance of form is the chance to see what's yet unborn, and the choice to throw this chance away and be caught up in the play of who we think we are, who we think we are. This is your lifetime. It could end at any time. Where is your attention? Where is your prayer? Where is your song? In a fortunate life comes a call to be free from the cycle of bondage, misidentity. To wake from the dream and finally realize the truth of one's being before the body dies. So before the final scene is past, see the screen on which it's cast. See what's seeing, this me and you, and then you will see who you